Hi guys, welcome to a brand new episode of the Football Suite Chat Show. I'm your host Leon, who is with me always is my co-host Richard and the new head of social media, Andrew. I'd like to say thank you for Andrew for taking it so well. He's been excellent on social media, if I can say. And this week we have a brand new guest with us. We've got David. He's a Tottenham supporter. David, what are you expecting from the show?
I'm expecting a lot of sense from you, Leon. I'm expecting even more sense from me. I'm expecting a little bit of delusion from the Arsenal fan, and then from Richard's point of view, I have no idea. That's what I'm most excited about listening to him, to be honest.
Oh, it started already, Andrew. You better get prepared.
It's going to be a long show.
Well, today's topic...
That doesn't sound like a very North London accent you got there, Andrew.
Oh, coming again. Right, we will talk about match analysis from the European qualifiers. Our next topics will be, are footballers role models? And FIFA, can we trust them? And then the finishing topic will be club or country. So let's get this started with the match analysis from the European qualifiers. We'll start off with the, let's say, the home nation, England. What did you guys think of the match?
Well, it's typical England, really. At the end of the day, isn't it? It's they beat a team that was put in front of them, but the team was nothing special.
I did see quite a heated debate on Twitter regarding a certain striker.
Look, let's not get me started on Danny Welbeck. I'll sum it up quite easily for everybody. There isn't a football fan in the world that when Manchester United came to their football ground and Wayne Rooney and Robin van Persie were injured and Danny Welbeck was playing up front, anybody thought, we're in for a tough game here, lads. We've got Danny Welbeck up front. Nobody.
Yeah, I just want to say, on the debate that we had...
He was a player until he joined them.
What I was trying to get across on that point on Twitter the other day was just the fact that... All I was trying to propose is the fact that what we're now seeing is Danny Welbeck being put in the striking position. That's what I was trying to get across.
Yeah, no, it's not a place... Yeah, I'll fully admit that Danny Welbeck, for the vast majority of his time at Manchester United, did play out of position. But that's because he wasn't good enough to replace the strikers.
Yeah.
It's as simple as that. And let's be perfectly honest, there was a time just before Ronaldo left United that Wayne Rooney was put out on the left wing and he still scored goals.
Danny Welbeck, in my opinion, sorry to butt in, lads.
It's all right, mate.
Danny Welbeck, and you saw it was indicative of how Ferguson played him, and what the debate is with regard to his best position, and essentially where Arsene Wenger is forced to play somebody at the moment because Giroud is injured, and so you've got this idea that he's going to come in and score goals or that his best position is there, but he is a classic product of an early to mid 90s change in British coaching and British systems to go from a classic central number 9 to somebody that can be a little bit more creative in terms of going down either side of the penalty area. So we've kind of out-coached centre forwards that stay within the width of the 18-yard box, and so what you've got is you've got a product of, and I would put Sturridge in this bracket as well, and I would put people like Harry Kane in this bracket. If we look at youth products like people like Sonogo, I would argue that those again, it's this idea that Thierry Henry came to the Premier League and other super strikers like him that were equally good because they were amazing footballers to play all the way across the front line. And so then what we did is we ended up then coaching forwards to try and do that as well. And Danny Welbeck is one of those. He's somebody who works hard, who's somebody who will operate on the wide areas, who's somebody who's got a little bit of flair, that tries to do this, that tries to do that, and is never really ever a central striker, and is never really ever going to be a finisher in that mould. And so what you see now is you see some games where he finishes and some games where he doesn't finish. Some games where he's working hard and doing his best work wide, sometimes when he's going through the middle. But there's been no consistency to his coaching in one position, and so he's never going to ever be consistent in one position from match to match to match to match to match. And if that so happens to dovetail on international weekends, we're only going to get the frustrating one, because next week Danny Welbeck could be the one that Ferguson would call on every now and again to play in some bigger games, and he could be a brilliant player.
Also,
And-
what I would like to put is, I think the point that Andrew was trying to make was that, Welbeck was scoring goals when, everyone sort of like brings him down as a player. He doesn't get the recognition he probably should have deserved coming from a player who was out wide, out of position. I don't know if you agree, Andrew.
Yeah, that's exactly that's what I was trying to get across.
And also, I think a lot of England fans are frustrated that, Rooney, anyone who says Rooney's not a good player is kind of silly, but he doesn't do it on the world stage when it matters.
Except he has from every now and again. I think we get a little bit carried away, don't we?
The thing with Wayne Rooney is arguably the best product of English football since Paul Gascoigne, and before that, obviously Gary Lineker. I think
as a Spurs fan, I would say he's a better overall product of the British system than Gazza.
Yeah,
because Gazza 100% didn't do it all the time. Gazza's highlight reel is amazing. Gazza is a wonderful.
With Paul Gascoigne, he was a natural talent, and Wayne Rooney's got that natural talent. The thing with Wayne Rooney is, up until, well, maybe go back 5 years, he's not really kicked on. He's actually people thought he was going to kick on. He was going to be one of the best players in the world. And don't get me wrong, he is one of the best players in the world. But he's never he's never stepped up the level, has he? It's not about stepping up the level. What he realised he realised quite early on in his career, the reason why Michael Owen's career faded is because Liverpool ran him ragged week in, week out. Wayne Rooney, when he first came to United, the bloke never stopped running. He ran and he ran and he ran for 90 minutes. He'd get sent off, he'd get tackles in, he'd score goals, he'd be on the wing, he'd be back defending. Mm-hmm. And he realised by the age of 23, 24, I can't keep this up for the rest of my career. I'm going to have to slow down. I'm going to have to slow my game down. I can't be the 100% hell for leather every 5 seconds I have been from the age of 16 to 23.
I think you're giving that part of his frontal cortex a bit too much credit. I think that would be a subconscious or the fact that his body couldn't cope. I don't think there's been any conscious decision that he's going to look at game management and say, do you know what, I'm gonna rein it in. I just think that you get to a point where he has no choice but to rein it in. I don't think he's looked at Michael Owen. I don't think anyone's advised him to say, look at the example that Michael Owen's done about burning himself out. I just think we get to a point with Wayne Rooney that you kind of get, there's fact and there's a perceived fact, and unfortunately we're kind of driven in the world that we live in the football world that we're living in now, because everything you can analyse and microanalyse, and everyone wants to shout a bit louder than somebody else, and everybody wants an opinion. So we end up creating a perception, but the truth really lies somewhere in the middle. Wayne Rooney is a good player. Wayne Rooney hasn't been as bad as everyone said. Wayne Rooney probably hasn't reached the areas he's done. Wayne Rooney has peaks and troughs in his career, and I imagine he'll still go through peaks and troughs even in the latter couple of years. And we will see Wayne Rooney at top speed again, and we will see Wayne Rooney at top energy, and then we'll see him dip again. I think it's the nature of the beast. For most footballers of a high level, apart from maybe the elite 15 or 16 in the world. And I think that's always been the case. It's just it's drilled home now a little bit more because of just how tightly wound footballers are now compared to they were back in the day. Yeah,
and I also think we're going to hear this about England every time they play as well. Like if they play one of these matches where they're subpar, it's going to be they're the worst team ever. When they win, they're the best team ever. But that's it. That's the English media also as well, isn't it? And the English fans are very, I wouldn't say fickle, but they're very they're very one-sided. Like one side they'll be really great or they're terrible.
Yeah. With great power comes great responsibility, and there'll be podcasts going on in Brazil, although it'll have a better intro music and they'll be dancing better. There'll be a more relaxed and a kind of a laid back version of this going on in Italy, and all the major nations have the same kind of things, and we all get a little bit microscopic and a little bit introspective. But if we take it back to the England game, I thought inferior opposition, but inferior opposition have come off of the back of good form. And we all know from being football fans, and we all know from watching football for years, that talent is one thing, but confidence and momentum can often supersede that. So I think going away to Scotland, despite the fact that they're well below us in rankings, and coming up with that attitude and that performance, I think you can take lots of positives from that performance from the weekend.
Yeah, I agree also. We'll get on to the next match, Belgium versus Wales. Andrew, did you see it?
I got to see the highlights of it.
What did you think of it?
Yeah, I think credit to Wales. I think they did quite well. I think they've got themselves quite a good team there. And I think Belgium's still good. I think I think that both teams played quite well. I think the right result happened, and I think Wales could become quite a good team in the future. Definitely.
And also, you look at the team that Belgium have, they definitely have some world beaters out there. What do you think, Richard?
Yeah, I think Belgium have probably got one of the most underrated team. I mean, if you look at the team that they've got there, you've got Kompany, you've got Lukaku up front, you've got Hazard. You've got a fantastic making of a team there, and maybe they will surprise a few people in a few tournaments' time. They may actually get to a final, they may win something. But I think, in all fairness, I think too many people give. I mean, don't get me wrong, Wales had a good game, but really Belgium should be beating Wales. Belgium should be beating Wales. I mean, over 60% possession for 90 minutes, 15 shots. They should be scoring in that game. I mean, really, if you look around, Wales have got a decent team, but there's only really Gareth Bale. That's it.
Yeah,
it's interesting. Do you know what? It's interesting. Your analysis is quite interesting, Richard. And statistically, you're right. It's kind of if you looked at the Opta stats, it looks reasonably one-sided. But Wales being the away side, I think it's quite interesting that Joe Ledley had a really good early career, then kind of gone off the radar. But since he's gone back to Palace, I've noticed that his performance level seems to have gone up, and he's starting to look like a proper player, deeper centrally. And if you've got Joe Ledley, who's got a fair bit of mobility to go with his attitude, Ramsey, Joe Allen to keep things ticking over, and then Gareth Bale as the weapon. I think that's reasonably decent, and I think although I think watching the game, I think Wales deserved a draw. To be honest, I think at times Belgium looked more of a one-man team with Hazard than they did with Bale, because a lot of the way that Wales used it, whether it was a conscious effort from Coleman or not, I mean, I don't know if you particularly rate the man as a manager or not, or whether he's just stumbled across a reasonably talented bunch of Welshmen. But they used Bale pretty well in terms of his positioning to make sure that Belgium weren't too brave with how high they put their back four, and that on its own meant that one player was keeping four players occupied essentially by keeping them as far back as he did. But they didn't create much, and they did have to work. And going back to you, Richard, on the overall quality of the Belgian squad, I agree. I mean, the likes of Dembele and Vertonghen have kind of gone off the rails recently, but overall, there's a lot of talent there, and easily comparable to the France, maybe possibly even the current Spain side to be the ones challenging Germany at the next Euros. But their manager is awful. Wilmot.
I think the main problem that Belgium have got, though, is they've got an extremely strong starting 11. It's when the likes of Hazard, if he gets injured, Kompany gets injured, that's when the issues come with Belgium, because they've not really got that. It's okay for Spain to lose a Fabregas or an Iniesta in his day, or somebody, because they had the talent to replace them to come in. It's the same with Germany. It's the same with Italy. But the problem with Belgium is they've got a fantastic starting 11, but once them injuries come in or suspensions or whatever it may be, they then struggle, and that's where Belgium's problem is going to be.
I think that's a fair comment. I also think that the fact that throughout the World Cup and from the few qualifying games I've seen since, they've kind of had a little bit of momentum knocked out of them after their showing in the World Cup. I do see their manager as being a pretty one-dimensional. Now, he had Lukaku, Benteke, Dembele all on the bench. I think he might have even had De Bruyne on the bench, didn't he? On against Wales.
I think he started.
Oh, did De Bruyne start? So you've still got Benteke, Lukaku, and Dembele. Now, in different ways, they can be game changers and add something to it. So you would hope that a manager with a little bit more tactical nous would be able to make something of those and make a difference. But it kind of, I wouldn't be confident if I was Belgian. I wouldn't be confident in that particular manager. Probably as unconfident in their manager as a lot of England fans are with Roy Hodgson. His ability to do something a little bit out of the ordinary in order to change a game, I don't see that in him. And I think personally he holds them back, and they should be looking to try and get something else going on over there.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely an interesting. Definitely interesting analysis.
Where's the pods? Where's the pods kind of gut feeling at the moment for who are the front runners for the European Championships when we go through? Is Germany way out in front of your opinion? Do you think anyone can challenge them?
I think a lot of people can challenge Germany at the moment, especially the fact that they haven't had a great start, and they've been pretty. I wouldn't say poor, but they've been average. They haven't been very good, but that's all for a different debate. Let's go on to the first topic of the show. It's the topic regarding are footballers role models. So, Andrew, what did you think about this topic? Because I know it's a topic you're very interested in.
Yeah, because basically when I was talking to you about it, it came from TalkSport, really. It's kind of revolving the Ched Evans debate. So I just kind of, when I heard about it, I really thought that was quite an interesting topic, because obviously we've all been brought up on the thought that, me personally, I have, on the fact that footballers are role models. But I think now that they're a bit different from reality, I've changed my mind a bit, and I don't think they actually are. But I think what we've got to do is, I think the best point that was brought up is the fact that we can't have these players as role models because they are so different from us modern day. But I think that doesn't give them the right just to do what they want, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. Are any of you guys the fathers? I've got one child and one on the way. Are any of you guys got children?
No.
Okay, so from my point of view, the most important and the most significant role model in the child's life is their immediate family structure, their mum, their dad, the people that you surround your family in order to bring them up, the places you take to school, their teachers, all the people that can teach them. But whereas I fundamentally agree with you, Andrew, that you cannot burden somebody that happens to be particularly good at something, that happens to be particularly chosen to do something and paid to do something that is sometimes thrust into the public eye. You cannot really enforce them to be this bastion of good. And if you as a parent or you as a society are shining the light on these people and asking these people to be role models, then you have to look at yourselves and what role you should be doing. And not shirking your responsibility, but they get paid a lot.
I also believe that personally, like, you take away footballers out of these people's lives, and they're just the average sort of English lad that goes out partying. Because you look at it with the English squad when they're on like holidays and stuff like that, it's madness. And I don't know if you agree, Richard, but if these people didn't have football in their lives, then they're probably going to be on a show like Geordie Shore. I think
the thing is, I mean, to pick up on the Chad Evans point, I mean, in regards to role models, let's be perfectly honest. Regards to role models in football, you can't really say that anyone is or isn't a role model. But just to pick up massively on the Chad Evans point, he was convicted for raping a girl. He's done his time. He's come out of prison. Does he deserve a second chance? Does he not deserve a second chance? But the fact of the matter is there is an inquest going through at the moment of whether or not the verdict is correct.
Sorry, guys. Let's just stop for a second. Right, carry on, Richard. Sorry about that, guys.
So as I was saying there, in regards to Chad Evans, he's been convicted.
Yeah.
In a court of law, which is as it stands today, is undisputable. He's done his time. He's come out of prison. In a little bit way, in a similar to Mike Tyson, went straight back into boxing and ended up being world champion. And is that different for Chad Evans? Is he allowed to come back and continue the profession if he wasn't a footballer and his profession was music or his profession was sales or whatever it may be?
European employment law says that if you've done your time, then there are no legal restrictions for you coming back into your job. It becomes a but you could rightly. I do a sales job. If I was convicted of a felony, I could be sacked by my employer from that particular job. But what they couldn't prevent me doing is coming back to work in the same field. It would then just depend on the employer whether they wanted to employ me. There are no European laws that make employers employ people. So if they know that you've got a conviction to which you have to declare, they're allowed to make a decision based on that.
Yeah. I think that it's the bad press which they don't want. They don't want people like their celebrity fans to feel aggrieved because a lot of people are going to take their side. And I don't know if you guys have seen it, but Jessica Ennis-Hill put out that she would want her name removed from the stand. I don't know if you saw this. Andrew, what do you think about this?
Just to pick up on that, it's not just a case of that, but at this moment in time with Chad Evans, he's going through, and there's an inquest at present of whether or not the conviction was correct. How silly these people that are coming out now and tarnishing Sheffield. Sheffield United are a fantastic football club. They're one of the oldest football clubs. They go way back. How silly these celebrities who have I'm not being involved in this football club are going to look if the inquest comes out and it says actually no, the conviction was incorrect. How silly is that going to look?
I know, Richard. What you say is absolutely right. But the way that you have to look at it is there are two scenarios. Then, if you just make it black and white, there is saying no to somebody and then it turned out that they didn't do it, or saying yes to somebody and finding out that they did do it. And one of them is a lesser evil. One of them affects one person, one of them affects thousands. So, but at the same time, there's nothing legally stopping anyone going down any of the paths. It all then becomes a club decision. And with all of what's happening in football at the moment, with all of things like StubHub, things like the grounds becoming more populated with tourists, the dying of atmosphere, the rising prices, the smaller voice that fans have. If a fan base mobilises and says that they don't want something to happen, I think it's a good thing when the club listen, regardless of whether the subject is contentious. On
this point here, Sheffield United, breaking news, have just retracted their decision to let convicted rapist Chavez train at the football club.
It's sad for Chad, and do you know what? I hope that he clears his name, and I hope that he goes on, or I hope that he finds peace, and finds something else. But I think he's a very extreme example of the overall topic with regards to role models. And my personal opinion is that particularly top flight footballers in top flight European leagues that get all of the trappings of being a footballer, of doing interviews, of being on Sky Sports News, of being able to sell and make extra money off the back of football by merchandising and doing good stuff as well. But I think if they make a conscious effort to use their football status in order to gain money, then they absolutely make themselves a role model in terms of their behaviour.
And also, I think a lot of it is the sort of like the glamour style. They go out to these nightclubs and they can sort of do what they want. They're celebrities and.
But you know what, Leon? That's British footballers. That's a very indicative thing of English footballers to do that sort of thing. And it's only that, and because of the way that social media and media works, we have a very working class, or we certainly did used to have a very working class core of footballers with a certain level of education. That isn't the case necessarily in Europe, nor is it necessarily the culture. So we love a good story, so the story perpetuates itself. It isn't kind of treated the same on the continent. So I would say that it's only young British footballers on a general level that end up falling out of nightclubs, and they're not very good role models, but the higher profile ones certainly should conduct themselves in a certain way. And that doesn't mean not have a drink and not have a laugh. That means don't shoot your teammates on a training field with an air rifle. Don't wrap your veil on round a lamppost and then run off because you've been drinking. You don't have to do amazing things. You don't have to heal the world to be a role model.
Yeah, but also I don't know if you agree, Andrew. You don't really see this in like the other leagues, like the La Liga, especially. Like there was a big court case with Messi regarding like tax evasion. Can you imagine what it'd be like if that happened to like a player like Wayne Rooney?
Oh God, yeah, exactly. Yeah, I agree 100%. I'd just like to point out as well, just going back to the Ched Evans thing, he actually only served 2.5 years of a 5-year sentence in jail. So he's not actually finished his time. But just going back to the point that was brought up then by Leon, I completely agree the fact that if Wayne Rooney had about tax evasion, it'd be front of every newspaper possible. They'd be talking about all his family and everything, all the things they've been doing. Yeah, it's just the way it is. I agree completely with the point about that was brought up then about English players are the ones, British players are the ones who are young, getting the money, falling out of nightclubs on a Thursday night and stuff like that. Exactly, Ravel Morrison's a great option of that. Someone who's got money a bit too young, and we're seeing.
Richard would know all about that because obviously he was a Man United player.
Exactly.
Ravel Morrison.
It's not only that. I actually know Ravel Morrison, and I know his ex-girlfriend as well, Ria. The thing with Ravel Morrison, it's not just with him. It's the same with every young English talent. And you can go as with your Jack Wilsheres, you can go with your Ravel Morrisons and anybody else. The fact is, they're put on a pedestal as a kid, as a 16, 17, 18-year-old, and they go one of two ways. They can either take that as if they say, yeah, I'm up there, but I need to stay up there and I need to do everything I can to be at this level for X amount of years, because a footballer's career, let's not forget this, a footballer's career is short. It's the end of your career at your early to mid 30s, late 30s, early 40s if you're lucky. But the fact is, the kids on multi-million pounds a season, and that's why, there's no top flight English players playing abroad, because they wouldn't be able to adapt to the culture. It'd be frowned upon of everything that they do, because they wouldn't be able to change their lifestyle. Look at the fact that David Beckham's probably the most recognised footballer, if not sports personality, in the world. And yeah, he's had his ups and downs on the field, and there was a bit, wasn't there, when he supposedly had an affair with his PA or whatever it was that was in the papers for a while. But he kept his career and his personal life and pretty much everything, apart from being in the spotlight and doing the publicity things. But he kept his life to himself, and it's the same with Paul Scholes.
I think that's a big thing with David Beckham, though, don't you think? I think that's a big thing with David Beckham, though, don't you think? Like, I think about probably my growing up in the 90s, from the time when I was around, how can I put it, like around 11 years old, everyone had his hairstyle, everyone was trying to do free kicks like him. So people grow up wanting to be like him, especially the kids that have got to like 16, 17 and still want to be footballers. So they look at his life and it's like the glamour life. And he was one of the few people that sort of wasn't, going out getting absolutely smashed.
I mean, let's not forget as well. I mean, obviously we give the young English players these days, quite a bad name in regards to the way that they act and the way that they can conduct themselves as adults. But let's not forget, we go back to John Hartson kicking Al Berkovitz in the face in training. Eric Cantona kung fu kicking. Roy Keane trying to pretty much chased Alan Shearer out of St James's Park. He wanted to punch him that hard. So it's
they're all good examples, aren't they, Richard, of footballers just being a microcosm of the rest of society. And I think in general there are good and bad people. I just think this idea, this premise, are footballers role models or not? I think the general answer is yes, but there's always caveats and exceptions to that. Now, nothing David Beckham and Paul Scholes are two wonderful examples of role models, but in a completely different way. One of them is reserved and professional and is a role model because he keeps himself to himself. One of them is somebody that shows you how to be successful and nice with it and a good family man and to make a very capitalist success of yourself.
And he loves an advert.
That you do. No, absolutely. And there's nothing wrong with success. There's nothing wrong with making money. There's nothing wrong with flaunt. Cristiano Ronaldo is a good role model. Yes, he's a tart, but he's a good role model. Lionel Messi is a good role model. Luis Suarez is not a good role model. But it's interesting when we were talking about all these things, is that there's tens of thousands of Liverpool fans, if there is such a thing, tens of thousands of Liverpool fans that all wore number 7 Suarez. It's because
I know that's a topic. I know that's a topic Richard really does
football,
like.
Oh mate, I could talk for hours about my absolute disgust of their fan base and that dark period in their history. But that is an example of football absolutely superseding exactly that. So it kind of makes me think, why am I even talking about role models? Because I would set up a particular standard. I would point to one footballer or another footballer, be it a manager, a young player, an old player, a foreign player, an English player, and say that's a role model, that's not a role model, this is what you need to be like. And then an entire fan base absolutely mug me off by stonewalling what is obvious and right and true and moral in the world by supporting that disgusting creature.
Well, that's the thing. You see, it's not just the fans, but it's the football club. Sheffield United today have come out and said, actually, we're going to retract our decision. We're not going to let him train with our football club because he's a convicted rapist. They stuck by him during the trial.
And why did they stick by him?
Because it's innocent and until proven guilty.
No. They stuck they stuck by him because he's potentially a valuable commodity to them. Exactly. Because he's potentially something that they can use to their benefit, and now they've realised this ain't going to work, and so we're going to have to backpedal. They're taking the moral high ground after the event.
Go ahead, Richard.
Is simply the fact of the matter is that when he was going through his supposed racist remarks to Patrice Evra, the club come out wearing whatever it was, Justice for Suarez T-shirts and whatever else, and the fans stuck by him, which you're gonna do. The United fans stuck by Eric Cantona, and United stuck by Eric Cantona when he come through kicked a fan, regardless of the reasons as to why he did it. It didn't make a difference. We're going to stick by him. He's done something wrong, but we're going to stick by him because, like you say, he's a commodity. He earns us money. But then when he bites a player to come out and physically and come out and say that he supports to support that kind of player, and then for the fans to continue to support him when he then does it again on an international stage, and the difference being there is now all of a sudden Luis Suarez is this, he's that, he's the other to Liverpool fans because now he's gone to Barcelona.
But do you also think that actually this is a question for Andrew, because you don't really see this a lot at Arsenal, but do you think that it would happen at Arsenal if you had one of the best players, potentially one of the best players in the world, suddenly do an action like that? What do you think the fans would do?
I think that's why I don't really want to slag off Liverpool fans, because I can't stand here and say that I wouldn't do the same just because
that's the thing.
It's obviously not happened.
Exactly, and that's exactly my point. It's easy to say that after time after time after time he'd done it, but You know, you've got one of the best players in the world at your football club. All you want to do is keep him at your club. So the fans, I don't think, are going to turn on him.
I don't want to believe that, Leon. I don't want to believe that is an absolute definite, that everyone would feel the same.
Oh no, I'm not saying everyone would feel the same. I'm saying a majority of a fan base.
Point of view, we've all had this conversation. I wholeheartely, absolutely wouldn't support Luis Suarez if he wore a Tottenham shirt and did the same thing. The racism thing above and beyond any biting. I was personally disgusted with Jermaine Defoe when he chomped down on Javier Mascherano, and that wasn't even anywhere near as bad. But I'm willing to admit that.
Yeah, but you've also got to remember, from a club the club that's got such history and have gone through like the things that Liverpool have, where they've gone for so long without a trophy, and then suddenly to see one of the best players in the world. I don't know if you agree, Richard, but I think a club like that would stick by.
I don't. Honestly, I think a club would stick by you once, and I think that any football club and any football fan would stick by you once. Eric Cantona was stuck by the fans, and he was stuck by Alex Ferguson. If Eric Cantona comes back after a 9-month ban, and 3 months later, kung fu kicks a fan again, or punches a fan, or spits at a fan, or whatever it may be, then you're out, mate. See you later. Yeah. You know, it's as simple as that. We'll stick by you once, but you do it again, you're out. The thing with Luis Suarez, it was we'll stick by you once, which was absolutely embarrassing. Them shirts that they wore for that warm-up before that football match was embarrassing.
That's true.
Especially at the time with racism. You know, racism's playing a massive part at the moment in football, in sport. Not just in sport, but in the world. Racism seems to have come back. It seems to have disappeared for a while, or wasn't as prolific as what it is. You know, but it's starting to get to the point now where we're actually living again in a racist world, and that's just absolutely diabolical.
Yeah.
But the football club should have made an example of him. They didn't. They stuck by him. Even the manager, Kenny Dalglish, at the time, wearing the Justice for Luis Suarez T-shirt, it was disgusting.
But you didn't hear a lot of them say, like, Liverpool actual football club came out after, and with the ridiculous T-shirts, we all have opinions on it, but I don't know if you agree, Andrew, but they didn't come out after the Ivanovic bite and say, well, he hasn't done anything wrong. I don't know if they condemned it. A few of the legends did, like, you know, Phil Thompson, you know, the striker, Ian Rush, he condemned it, but, you know, I don't know what more they want unless it's Brendan Rodgers' decision.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Going back to the point about the racism, like, Richard, like what you said before, though, with Liverpool, he wasn't actually guilty at that point, so that's why they wore the T-shirts, just because. Yeah,
but I'm all for supporting somebody that's done something wrong, but to actually public come out and have T-shirts made, and to be out there on TV and you're manager of your football club.
But he wasn't guilty then, though. That's
and also from that
he wasn't guilty, Andrew. But at the same time, I personally, I think you should always you always need to know the facts before you throw your hat in one ring or the other.
But also, if I can just jump in,
yeah, of course. Yeah.
If I can just jump in, like, I totally understand. If it was me, the shirt wouldn't happen. But if they're taking his word for it, then, you know, it's a witch hunt against Luis Suarez. So
there are different ways. There are different ways of doing it.
Oh no, definitely, I agree. I wouldn't have wore the shirt. You know, I wouldn't have been the one to okay that at all. But what I'm saying is, if you're looking from Liverpool's perspective, keep this guy happy. For all you know, it's a witch hunt against him. I think we all know what sort of person Suarez is, but this is the first incident.
I just want to say that the T-shirts weren't as embarrassing as the Premier League champions 2014 ones they were selling outside the ground before the Chelsea game. They weren't quite as embarrassing as them ones.
Yeah. Mourinho did a number on them.
Well, and nowhere near as embarrassing as the Man United fan that had a half Man United Man City scarf at the last derby.
Oh,
don't get me started on them.
Last week, watch the last episode.
We could do 2 hours of half and half scarves.
Last episode.
I'm not joking. If I go to the next home game at United or away game and I see somebody in a half and half shirt,
half and half shirts should be illegal. You shouldn't be allowed to wear them. But yeah, that that was a great topic, guys. The next topic we're talking about is FIFA. I know this is one Andrew really interested in, so he can start us off on this. FIFA, can we trust them? Take it off, Andrew.
But I mean, you guys were both following the Twitter account on last Thursday when the précis of the report came out, and it was such an awful thing to think these people are running our game, the game we love, to think that it's just getting out. I just think it's getting out of control now, I think, because we're now, especially with whistleblowers coming out saying they're fearing for their lives because they've come out against FIFA. I can't actually get my head around what's going on. These people are just, now Qatar apparently is completely fine, Russia's completely fine, and it turns out actually England are the people, according to FIFA, we're the ones actually in the wrong. Our FA, we're trying to buy people off, and it's just...
I'm not disrespecting Qatar or Russia as an actual country, but surely the issues that are going on at the moment, it's not the best choice.
Exactly, yeah.
And what do you think about this subject, Richard?
In regards to FIFA, let's be perfectly honest, they're no worse than any politician, are they? Let's be fair. So they can't be trusted. They're going to do what's best for FIFA, not best for anybody else. The World Cup in Qatar, it's absolutely ridiculous, because the vast majority of any football league is going to have to change their whole schedule for the World Cup.
Yeah, I agree. And also, can we see the Premier League changing like that? What's going to happen to it? I don't know what's going to happen to the Premier League.
I think we'll end up making some sort of compromise here or there. I would love to see us. I would wholeheartedly back us of pulling out of a FIFA tournament. I absolutely would. I personally think that it's as corrupt as you get. And then do you know what? Every single governing body, when they fight for power, compromise their own principles and end up being corrupt in one way or another. And I dare say if there was a huge FIFA power struggle in UEFA won, UEFA would go the other way. And it's really clever. It's a really clever business model that Sepp Blatter's lots come up with.
But can we not say that about UEFA at the moment anyway?
We possibly, yeah. I mean, they kind of. I mean, if we want to embroil them in on it, but if we're focusing on what FIFA have done, they've legally guaranteed that one person can end up going for re-election, because the way that Sepp Blatter's divided how the votes work, and because of the division of funds, what the funds that aren't creamed off the top by the various people that run FIFA, but the 1 million here, the 2 million there that are getting distributed to West Africa, to other parts of South America, to smaller countries in Australasia and Asia. All that money is a small pot of money comparatively, but it's a large pot of money to each of those individual FAs, enough for them to say, do you know what, it doesn't really matter what Germany and England and France are going on about, because they've got exactly the same amount of votes in FIFA that we do. They don't need the handout money from FIFA. So FIFA has no influence on them. FIFA can't appease Germany and France and England with giving them a couple of 3 million every year, but they can do that. And all of these smaller countries have been scared into the idea that if FIFA changed, if Sepp Blatter went and FIFA changed, and there was a little bit more power put back over to Europe, because Europe are the best equipped to put on tournaments, because Europe are the best equipped to govern football. If that moved over there, then it meant these people wouldn't have a say, and they potentially would lose their place in world football and their opportunity to qualify. So they're keeping them in power. Yeah, it's a genius business model.
You've just got to look at the state of the World Cup in Brazil. Okay, we were a fortnight away from the World Cup kicking off, and stadiums weren't finished, stands weren't finished, access weren't finished.
Yeah.
We had, I can't remember what group of fans it was that managed to break into a football stadium through a dividing wall for the reporters section.
Oh yeah,
was it Czech Republic or was it?
Chile? No, it's more. No, I think it was Chilean.
Yeah, but the thing that is there was so many people that died building these football stadiums. Now I'm all for regenerating areas and countries and places. That's
But let's be honest. Like the only people that sort of benefited were the rich. You know that
Exactly.
places were redeveloped by demolishing housing and building a stadium. You know, there was
so places in the world. There's so many places throughout world football that are already equipped to hold a massive tournament on that scale.
I mean, if you look at England, say if you put the World Cup in England, you've got Old Trafford, you've got the Etihad, you've got Emirates, you've got Stamford Bridge.
The Etihad wouldn't be used. There's not enough seats.
But yeah, I know we have a big group of stadiums, and compared to Russia, I don't understand why England weren't picked personally. But Andrew, you were really interested in this topic. What do you think should happen regarding FIFA?
Completely agree with David. We've got to do something. We just can't let this happen anymore. We've got to pull out of a tournament or something because.
But can you see that happening?
I really, honestly, no. But it's like, you know, when it's just a dream, and you hope it happens, but you just don't.
I think
it will get to the point where the top European clubs are the top European countries, around the world. Your Spain's, your France, your Germany's, your Italy's, England's. You know, they will pull out of a major tournament because they can't. You can't disrupt an entire European continent's football season because it won't just be for 1 year. It'll be a knock on. It'll be a domino effect. If in that 2022 World Cup, if Spain, Italy, France, Germany, Portugal, England, if they all qualify for that World Cup, and their entire season has to end because we have to have the World Cup in the winter months, then it's not just going to be for one season. It's going to disrupt 2 or 3 years before the Premier League, the La Ligas, the Bundesliga, Serie A will get back to where it is. And by that time, there'll be a European Championship. So that'll disrupt it again because they'll have to mess everything about.
And it happens with the African Cup of Nations as well. And you've definitely seen where it's hurt, like Chelsea in the past. And, you know, you can see when it's hurt Man City when Yaya Touré's not been there.
Yeah, I definitely think that England should boycott the Africa Cup of Nations. I think, and you say the people could look, the cynic can turn around and fans of other countries that have a little bit more apathy towards all this and are just happy to let things carry on because it doesn't really involve them, would look and say, England, well, you know, tell us you're prepared to pull out of a FIFA tournament when you've got a good enough team to win it. It's easy to turn around and say, do you know what, we're not going to win it, so there's no hassle. But we do have clout. Because per head, per capita, nobody pays more for television viewing. Nobody pays more as a nation for bidding for World Cup rights to watch on telly, or bidding for FIFA organised events on telly. So we would cut hundreds of millions of pounds off of their yearly budget if we suddenly pulled out. Because not only do we slightly diminish their tournament by not being in it, let's not be arrogant enough to think that we wouldn't stink the place out if we turned up. But in terms of viewing figures, in terms of their ability to sell their TV rights to other teams in Europe, because if we don't buy, because we pay top dollar, if we don't buy, then that means that the next level of country that has to buy for TV rights works from a lower base, and it has a massive knock-on effect. If Germany or France or Spain, sorry Italy, I don't think that you would picture in this, but certainly if Spain and Germany being the two European teams that are most likely to enhance a tournament on the field, and France latterly coming up underneath them, if those three pulled out,
well, you could put it through the last couple of tournaments that England are just there to make the numbers up.
Yeah, but not in terms of viewing figures, Leon. Not in terms of viewing figures. We line the coffers. They charge us more because we're able to bid more for TV rights when it's all divided up. If England and Sky and ITV and the BBC are not competing with each other for rights to show England games at FIFA, to which FIFA get a most cut of that, then the price gets driven down. And it would hurt them massively financially. So they should be scared that we do it. I personally just don't think that when it comes down to it, we would find the bottle to do it. Or there would be somebody else corrupt in the English FA that would get a handout from FIFA and their key decision. They would be a key influencer within the FA that would keep us in the FIFA tournament. You know, I think our best bet is if Germany go, do you know what? Fuck you. Sorry, excuse my language. Do you know what? stuff you lot, we're out.
Sorry guys for that language. Sorry. Right, let's get on to the next topic. It's club or country. We'll start with Andrew. Your club, and are you club over country?
Basically, my point on this is the fact that this summer, it was probably about 50-50. But the way England let all of us down this summer, it's completely swayed to club. Because, I mean, that performance this summer was absolutely awful for a country, under no pressure from its fans to let people down so poorly like that. And the fact that, I don't get excited for England anymore. I used to absolutely love watching international matches, but I mean, like we're mentioning in the first segment with the Slovenia match, it was just so boring. And do you know what I mean? Like, watching England just isn't fun anymore.
No, definitely. When I was young, it was always I was a split sort of nation. I was England and Ireland because of my father, and I used to love watching international football. But now, I couldn't even care if it's on. Yeah. You know, it's on in the background. It's like watching just a complete random nation play someone else, because I haven't felt for a very long time that, this is worth watching. It's woeful. You see these superstars playing, and they can just about beat a really poor team.
Yeah.
But okay, David, are you club or country?
Oh, club. I would rather win a 5-minute each way game on FIFA as Tottenham than England win a game. I'm 100% club versus country. I invest my life. I invest my emotions. I invest everything about me growing up. The amount of time that you see them, the amount of times you go there, the amount of money and time and emotion that you invest in something. How can you not when England is something more sporadic? And that's when I'm talking from a very pure innocent. Now, the older I get and the more cynical I get and the more tribal I become, it's even greater than that. But it's interesting though, Leon, because when England play and when there's international football, I watch it passionately because I'm a football fan. I find an interest in it as an England fan. So I probably find more enjoyment in watching England than you've just described that you do. However, I have never ever been country over club. Never. It was always. I mean, I watch Spurs under 18s. I watch Spurs under 19. Me and my mates get together and we'll go up to Stevenage and we'll sing our hearts out for 90 minutes watching the Tottenham youngsters, or we'll follow the under 21s around when they're playing at White Hart Lane. We always go to the North London under 21 derby, whether it's at the Death Star or whether it's at White Hart Lane. So it's club all the way for me.
And then the final one, Richard. I think this is an easy answer, really, isn't it?
I couldn't care less about international football. I really couldn't. I could not care less. And there's no excitement for me. There's no ambition. I don't think with any of, there's gone are the days where it was an honour to pull on the international shirt for your country. In this country, I think obviously there's still a little bit of respect. I mean, let's be perfectly honest. If Carlton Palmer can put on an England shirt, then anybody can. Richard,
did I get right? Did you play football to a good standard? Did I hear that right?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So when you were going up through, could you honestly say when you were potentially heading towards a professional career, was your main ambition to put the England shirt on?
No.
That's very interesting, because I think footballers, professional footballers are still the last kind of oasis of wanting to play for their country above anything else. And it's interesting that you, coming from that perspective, still virulently would rather put on a United shirt than put on an England shirt.
And I think a lot of fans, the fans see their own club as a sort of religion. And they see more of their own, well, especially England, as just a drain.
I think the main things for me is when I was playing, what I wanted to do is first of all, I found it as an honour, and I turned down a lot of football clubs to join Manchester United. A lot of big football clubs, a lot of probably football clubs that had probably made it into the first team at a younger age. My ambition was to play at some of the biggest football grounds in the world. I've been lucky enough to be able to play at the Nou Camp. But for me, there's never been that desire for English football. For me, there's never been that want, and it's the same for me as a football fan. I just can't get excited about something. I just don't see it as an I think maybe the last time I got excited about a European tournament or a World Cup was possibly Euro '96, and England had a great tournament, and it was in England, and it was in and it was a good atmosphere. We had some great players, but there's no excitement there, and I don't see how anybody could say club over country over club, because like David said, you put your money into that football club week in, week out, season in, season out. You follow them everywhere. You go home and away. You buy the shirts. If you've got children, you bring them up to support your football.
Are we all victims of success from that point of view? Because it's interesting when you look at the England away, particularly, you've got flags, and it's all towns and smaller clubs. Sorry, I don't mean smaller disrespectively. I mean clubs that are lower down in the leagues currently. It's those. Are the guys from Sheffield Wednesday? Are they ploughing all of their emotions and following England because their club side isn't as glamorous and isn't doing as well? Is their only opportunity to see world class players when they follow the country? Whereas our opportunity to see world class players is week in, week out. Is it just our egos that are being massaged by being club supporters compared to England supporters? If England are on the verge of winning World Cups, would we change our mind? There's loads of other questions that come into it, I suppose. But I can honestly say that even when Tottenham were in the doldrums, and we can all make jokes and laugh about what sort of state of play they're in at the moment, but essentially they're in the top 20 clubs in England, in one of the biggest leagues in Europe, and financially sound. So they are huge. And they are what you can call, in inverted commas, a success relatively. So I don't need international football. I don't need it. I personally think that even if we were in the second division, I'd feel the same way, but I can't say that with any confidence.
I see it as a hindrance. I see it as these international friendlies. We start a Premier League season after a World Cup tournament. We start a Premier League season, and 2 weeks in, we have a 2-week break for some international friendlies that are absolutely pointless.
Do you think international friendlies should be banned then?
No, I wouldn't say international friendlies, but why do we need an international friendly against Scotland halfway through a Premier League season? And
also, shouldn't the international friendlies be a chance for sort of either young players or older players who never got the chance to play's chance?
Yeah, I think they should. I mean, obviously qualifiers and things you can't really, they need to happen and things. But why can't for instance, this game against Scotland? It was a money. They pulled a lot of fans in. They sold out the stadium, and there was England versus Scotland. Why can't we go back to the old days? And in the summer when there's not an international tournament, why can't we just have a 2-week tournament of the home nations? England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, and have a tournament.
And once every 4 years, I would advocate something like that. Do you, Richard, Andrew, and Leon? Does it make a difference watching international football for the country that you would support, England, for argument's sake? Does it make a difference if your best players from your club are playing well for your country? I remember having more interest. Not saying that it superseded my love for Tottenham, but I would have more interest and would be keener to watch England games where Ledley King was playing, England games where Teddy Sheringham was playing. I become reasonably disillusioned when the Spurs players aren't good enough to make the England squad, so there's no prospect of them coming on, or if on the occasion even Andros Townsend with his ridiculously massive head. I don't particularly like the player, but I found myself more interested in England with the possibility that he could play. And it's funny because I spend all week slagging him off and saying he's no good, and then when it comes to England, all I want him to do is do well.
Personally, I just see, oh look, there's a Chelsea player in a different kit.
Yeah.
End of. Yeah. And nothing else. I don't feel any sort of feel for him, and I just think, especially with England, because you know nothing's going to happen. The furthest they're going to get is the quarterfinals, and then they're just going to get knocked out. And I mean, this was happening when Lampard, Gerrard, Scholes, it was happening all of that time, and it was just it's the same now as it was back then. What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, pretty much. Just going back to that point that was just brought up then, I wouldn't say I mind that much whether an Arsenal player is playing or not, particularly, because I like actually the fact that, funny enough, it is a bit of an odd point, but I do like the fact that for once I can actually cheer on Rudy, and back when you were saying like Lampard and Gerrard, like I enjoy watching those, actually being able to appreciate what they're doing instead of just slagging them off for 90 minutes.
I feel really bad now because I thought one of the main issues on Tuesday, there was far too many Arsenal players on that pitch. I can't do it as a Tottenham fan. I can't watch Jack Wilshere even in an England shirt. I can't will him to do well. I don't want
supporting Steven Gerrard in any aspect of anything in my life.
Yeah, it's hard, isn't it? And so I suppose that kind of answers the question for everyone, really, doesn't it? Apart from
I don't mind.
Well, to be fair, I think I would be upset if there was any Tottenham players playing, but there wasn't.
Yeah, no, that's well done. That's well done. Oh, there was plenty playing for Belgium, though.
Yeah, there was. And they they didn't lose, they drew.
No,
but
and you know what? And again, when Luka Modric, who's probably my, after Ledley King, probably my all-time favourite footballer, Luka Modric, when he was playing for Tottenham Hotspur, I would actively go and watch Croatia games because I loved watching him play that much.
Yeah, you was going to say something then, Richard. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just think I can't quite get it. I can't understand it. How a football fan can slag off Steven Gerrard for 90 minutes during the Premier League season, can badmouth a player who plays for another team, and then all of a sudden walking about the streets with an England shirt on with number 8 Gerrard on the back or number 4 Gerrard or
exactly. It's the same sort of people that criticise Rooney week in week out, but will then celebrate when he scores.
With Rooney on the back.
Yeah,
it's embarrassing.
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but I don't see the need in the amount of international games that are played. I see the need in the tournaments, the excitement for other people, and I see the need for the TV rights and the money and the players' development for playing on a world stage. But I don't see the need in these meaningless international friendlies.
So Richard, you would be quite interested. So this is the way that you kind of measure, the fun little game that you measure, club v country. Okay, so Man United to win the Carling Cup against Portsmouth in the final, or England to win the World Cup?
I'd rather Portsmouth win the Carling Cup.
No. Sorry. Are you not a United fan? Sorry.
Yeah, I'm a United fan, but I'd rather.
Right. You'd rather Portsmouth beat United in the final than England win the World Cup.
Yeah.
Man United win a league game to where they've already won the league and it's just a dead rubber against West Brom, or England win the World Cup.
Man United win a league game against West Brom.
That is proper club over country. That is.
I couldn't care less whether England won a World Cup. I really couldn't.
Leon? Well, did I hear you say you're Chelsea, Leon?
Yeah.
So the same question then. Carling Cup, Chelsea win.
If you put Ireland in that category, then maybe, but not England.
So it's Ireland v England in the final. Ireland win 3-0 to win the World Cup, or Chelsea beat Real Madrid this year in the final 3-0 for the Champions League.
Yeah, it's Chelsea easily.
Okay, Chelsea to win the Carling Cup against Tottenham.
Yeah,
versus Ireland to win the World Cup.
Well, we'd beat you anyway, wouldn't we? So it doesn't really matter. But no, I think it's all fair to say that we all prefer club over country, and there's a reason why that we prefer it over country, because we haven't seen anything from the country that's made us passionate about them.
I haven't asked Andrew. Andrew, Arsenal to spin a player transfer profit, or England to win the World Cup?
Honestly, no. Just going off those questions you've been asking those guys, I would put England winning the World Cup over anything Arsenal could do, personally.
Anything.
yeah,
You do a proper invincible season where you actually win some instead of doing boring draws towards the end because you're too afraid of losing, and it's a double winning season versus England winning the World Cup.
No, I'm sorry, I've got to go with England win the World Cup. I think all I'd say, the only point that I want to bring up is just listen to what people have to say about 1966 when England won the World Cup, and you just listen to the pride those people had. And I just have to put England winning the World Cup.
You're a better UK citizen than us three. I'll give you that.
Yeah, definitely. Right, that's the end of the show, guys. It's been an excellent show. Thank you for coming on, David.
No problem, mate.
We had the usuals. We had Andrew, we had Richard, and leave a comment if you feel that there's any topics you'd like us to discuss or how we can improve the show. But thank you.
Cheers, guys.
Thanks for listening.
Yeah, nice to meet you, fellas. Thanks very much. Sorry, I talked a bit too much.
No worries. It's what it's all about.
Good.
Cheers,
all
guys.
Right. You take it. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Thank you.